Hi, I'm Elspeth Jackson, rag rug expert and author, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make rag rug flowers, like these beautiful ones here. So in this step we'll be preparing our hessian, and every single one of these little rag rug flowers here in our bouquet has been made up of a figure of 8 shaped piece of hessian. So now we're here, I'm going to be sketching these figure of 8s onto the hessian. What I would normally suggest is find a few items around the house that are circular in shape and use them to draw around. And the way in which I do it is just sketch around this whole circle, and then what you want to do is overlap ever so slightly the same circle, and once again just holding it still, sketch the other side. Once we've got to this stage, we now need to secure the hessian so that when we've rag rugged these figure of 8s and cut them out, they don't fall apart. And the way in which we do this is we zigzag stitch on the drawn lines. So you'll need a sewing machine for this, just a normal zigzag stitch will do. So now we're preparing our first fabric, and I have chosen a jersey, and you can see that it's like a t-shirt material here. The way in which we cut our fabric in rag rugging is we fold our fabric in half, fold it again, and fold it again, and you fold it just so you've got a tube of fabric that you're still happy getting your scissors through. As a beginner, I would recommend cutting your strips approximately 2 centimeters in width, particularly for your first flower, because that's a really good width for a majority of different fabrics. The way in which I often kind of cut my strips to the same length would be I would lay them out all on top of each other. And for the moment, I'm going to be cutting them probably about 9 centimeters in length. But can you see you're just eyeballing it? They don't have to be completely perfect. So in this step, we're going to be shaggy rag rugging our first flower, and we'll need the rag rug spring tool to be able to do this. You keep the spring tool closed to begin with, and you poke only the very tip of the spring tool into the hessian. And then what you're doing is you're coming up 2 strands away and pushing across the top of the hessian. You then open up the end of the spring tool, and you grab onto the corner of one of your short strips of fabric, and very kind of easily you just pull half through so that you've got half on one side and half on the other side. So you can actually just bung in pieces of fabric wherever you want in this figure of 8. But I generally prefer to work around the inside edge of the stitching, almost in the figure of 8 shape. And you can actually see I'm just turning the hessian as I go, because I find it easier to rag rug in a certain direction, and I normally just maneuver the hessian around to fit with what my preference is. So do experiment and see what feels good for you. So once we've reached this stage where the whole of the outline's been done, it's just about making sure that we've got good coverage inside the figure of 8. So you can see there, that side of the flower is very, very full. If you were doing a rug, you would not do this spacing, because it would just mean that your rug would be too tight and it would curl. But for the flowers, we're making it nice and tight. And if you're interested in learning more about rugs, we've got a full course here on it. So we're now on to assembling our flower, and we've got this completed blue flower here, and you can only cut out flowers that have been fully rag rugged and that you don't intend to change. So here you can see that I've got this semi-completed pink flower, but I wouldn't cut this out because you can't change it once you've cut it out, but I will be doing it with this blue one. When I do that, I like to kind of grab hold of all of my shaggy pieces from the front of the hessian so that I accidentally don't give them a haircut from the front. What I'm going to do is just very carefully cut around the stitching, being careful not to cut it. And although it doesn't look very exciting at this stage, it almost looks like a little fluffy, I don't know, caterpillar of some kind, this will become our rag rug flower. So I've got my cutout figure of 8 here, and this is where I need one of my wooden stems, which you can also use a twig for if you want to. And you'll also need your glue gun or PVA. What you do is you're just putting a small amount of glue into 1/2 of our figure of 8. And then we're placing the stem into the figure of 8, and we're just folding it in half so that half is kind of sandwiched to the other half of the figure of 8. So when you reach this stage, you can just leave the rag rug flower exactly as it is, or you can actually just trim a few ends, and I sometimes like round them off slightly to make them look more like a little pom-pom. But that is the completed flower that I would feel quite happy adding to my bouquet. So once you've got to this stage where you've completed a rag rug flower and you've hopefully got a few of them that you've made, you'll probably want to pull them all together into a vase. And one of my little bits of advice is if you've done different size ones, it's normally quite nice to start with a larger one in the center and kind of build your bouquet around that. And once you've got to this stage, sometimes I like to put in fresh foliage just to kind of bring the whole bouquet together, just to trick the eye into thinking that the bouquet is real, particularly if I've used colors for the flowers that mimic the natural colours of flowers you would find in an actual fresh bouquet. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to this channel, and if you want to learn more about me and my process, check out my full course on Domestika. You'll find a link in the description below.